We're gonna start in a sec, yeah?
Yeah.
Welcome to the Jack No Audio Experience, and today joining me is Ali. So, how are you doing,
What's
Ali?
up?
Yeah,
I'm good. Excited to be here. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. So, I like to run through your world, what is in your
hmm
world and what are you about, and probably tell us what is your name and how old are you? Yeah.
Yeah. So, my name is Ali Darwich. I'm 25 right now, and I've got. When you talk about what's in my world and
Hmm.
what my life is like, I've got a lot of different things going on. I'm full time a software developer, so that's my 9 to 5. But I'm also a night student in music production and audio engineering. I take night classes, trying to improve that. I do piano lessons. Um, and so basically in the night, I'm a musician, and then during the day, I'm a software developer.
Hmm. Cool. So, like, what make you all started all these things? Like, it almost feels like there's like a main job that you kind of do, and there's some kind of a side hustle that's going on. Yeah, walk me through like what
Yeah.
make you all started all this? Yeah.
Yeah. This all started, I mean, the furthest back I go for that conversation it's when I started college. So I started college in 2012. Yeah, August 2012. And I went to the University of Texas at Austin. I still live in Austin, Texas right now. And basically, I got to school and I immediately knew I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I want to do. I'm going to take the time to figure it out. And so I spent my entire first year of college thinking about who I wanted to be. And in high school, I followed this philosophy of there was 3 pillars in my life that I wanted to always be studying. I wanted to be studying technology, creativity, and leadership.
Right.
And the reason, it was this triangle in my head, and it was like, if I'm always studying these 3 things, then I'm always expanding my mind and growing in the direction that I think is required for innovation. So I think those are the 3 things that you need in order to create true innovation in our world.
Right.
So when I got to college, there's not like an innovation major. There's not a, um, creativity, technology, and
Yeah.
leadership major. And so
Hmm.
I struggled with what Gary talks about, Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yeah.
He talks a lot about how the education system is not tailored for entrepreneurs.
Hmm.
And I ran into that. So when I got to this decision I had to make of what am I going to study, I ended up choosing to be a computer science major, but then I had a double major in business management because that was the closest thing I could get to leadership.
Hmm.
And then I had 2 minors. I had a minor in opera and a minor in creative writing.
Hmm.
So I had all these crazy things, and I went down this path, and my main vision was I was going to become a musician one day. I wanted nothing more than to be a musician, and the main thing was to create innovative music that could help others.
Right.
And I was going to use my computer science job to fund that. It was important to me that I became financially independent. I really love my parents. I was privileged enough for them to support me through college, and I wanted to offer them the comfort of knowing that I was going to be safe, stable.
Right.
So
Hmm.
5 years later, I graduate with all these things. I actually end up with a minor in business management because I realized that university is bullshit. And
Yeah.
I wasn't getting what I truly needed, so I was more focused on graduating. So I was like, get rid of the management major, go to a minor, let's get out of college, let's start our jobs.
Right.
And that's when I really started paying attention to I'm going to be a musician. So my 9 to 5, I got my first job in software development. I worked 9 to 5. I went to school right after work every day at my music production school. It's a community college here that has a fantastic program. And I would be at school from, if I left work at 5, got to school at 5:30, I would be
Hmm.
at school until 11:30.
Wow. Okay.
Then I would get home at 12. If I hadn't practiced piano that day, I would practice piano for an hour and then I would go to sleep.
Right.
And I did that for a year and a half.
Mm. So,
And
so the music kind of stuff is like you doing piano, yeah? The focus towards piano.
it's focused towards a lot of things. So that's the difficult part of music nowadays is you kind of have to learn how to do everything. So music production is you're learning how to create a sound inside of your computer, like a song,
Right.
and produce it for other people to hear. That means being able to compose the music, but it also means being able to, so that's the music theory, right? So piano and adding the guitar parts and also adding the vocals and the drums. It's all of that. And then you also have to understand how to properly record it and get the best sound quality and where you get that from. So
Oh, it's all about
it,
all those stuff, yeah.
yeah, it's everything. And it's everything required to make a song and get it to a listener's ears. So I've been studying all of that and trying to figure out what's my own process. And that was a main part of my journey.
Right.
And I think the part where things get interesting is a year into this journey. I was in the middle of my program, and then I got a really bad case of pneumonia.
Right.
And the pneumonia I had was so bad, I lost my voice entirely.
Oh gosh.
I had it for about 2.5 months, 3 months. And I was in the job I was in, like, computer science is not my passion. I was not happy at my job, but just pushing through that 9 to 5 grind so I could get to the music.
Right.
But I had enough in savings, so what I decided to do, because I was so unhappy with my job, and my job was actually making my pneumonia worse because they weren't giving me time off.
Right.
So I decided to quit. And I took 4 months, or 2 months, so at first, I took 2 months to make my own demo of music. And I challenged myself. I said, this isn't about success. I'm going to make music that I'm proud of and figure out if music is what I'm meant to do.
Right.
So this 2 month journey of mine, I created a little demo, and the goal of it, the end goal, was I had a one-on-one meeting with the lead rapper for Linkin Park, Mike Shinoda. I say one-on-one meeting. It's one of those meetings where like your fan meet and greets happen.
Ah, I
Yeah,
see,
yeah,
I see,
but
I see. Yeah.
small enough to where there is a one-on-one moment. And so what I did is I bought the domain name Mike Please Listen to My Demo.com. And I made this website for him, which had 4 different pieces of content for him to do. And it was my pursuit for challenging myself to make musical content and all the types of content that I was so afraid of making for all these years. Too busy being a perfectionist about, afraid of it not being good enough. I just did it. So I produced my own song. I produced a song with a producer, paid to have it done. I made a cover song, which was just a cover video. And then I also did another song, which was a live performance. I challenged myself to do all those things within 2 months and make the website and give it to him. So I did that.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yes. So that's like the synopsis of the musical journey, basically. And then kind of the aftermath of that is actually who I am today, and my relationship with music is different now, and how I go about life and my search for success is totally different than what it was back then.
I see. So that's where I want to jump into right now, which is the life that you are living right now. Can you paint us a better picture of how is your life is like right now? Like
I can't.
your Mondays to your Sundays, like what you kind of do, yeah, here and there, yeah.
Yeah. So nowadays, I'm back. I got another job in software development. I've been doing that one for a year. But this time, this 9 to 5 of mine, I go in with a much healthier attitude. I'm less obsessed with success and more about enjoying my day. And enjoying my day for me has become a matter of just taking daily checks on what I want to do with my day. And a lot of the times, what I want to do with my day is music. So I'll go to work from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And then I'll come home. Usually, I'll try to play piano for an hour or two. If I don't play piano, I'll try to work on another piece of musical content. Either it'll be a cover song like playing guitar, or it'll be working on a new track that I need to do. I work with a local producer to work on new music as well. So sometimes it'll be bouncing work between each other. Other times I'll just come home and I'm watching content, or I like to watch anime, so sometimes I'm watching anime.
Oh, I
That's
watch
and I'm
anime
fine with
too.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm a big anime buff. So,
Awesome.
but one of the big things that I've been more open to now actually is socializing. Before I used to be so like I would be 3 to 4 weeks booked because I was so focused on music that I just wouldn't have time to hang out with people.
Hmm.
Nowadays, I'm much more open to socializing and hanging out with people, and so that I'll sometimes do that after work. But for the most part, I'm coming home and I'm trying to work on music every day. The
Mm.
weekends are more packed. Usually in the weekends is when I'll have a meeting with my music producer if I can, and we'll work on a new track.
Mm.
Um, if not that, I'll try to travel. I'll try to see friends, or I'll just book the weekend. Like I'll take a Saturday, and for 4 to 6 hours, I'll sit in my room and work on music.
Hmm. I see. So it's like your job is just revolves all around towards music, yeah, right now.
Yeah, for the most part, I do my best to keep it music focused because if I'm not working on a track that I need to produce with my producer,
Mm-hmm.
I'm preparing for a piano lesson that I have. I try to take consistent piano lessons, and if I'm not in piano lessons at the time, I try to have my own piano lessons. So, doing warm up routines or just in general learning a new song that is hard for me, challenges me.
I see. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the only thing I would add to that is reading. I recently
Oh.
watched an interview with Ty Lopez, who at first I wasn't sure if I trusted him. The
Yeah.
Lamborghini video of his always seemed a bit gimmicky for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um, and then I saw his interview on impact theory recently, and I actually really respected him from that. So he got me thinking, like, oh, um, I need to be reading more. And so I started reading more. I also journal a lot, so a lot of the days I'm just journaling.
Oh, that's
Um,
great.
yeah, and the only other thing that I think gets added onto that and inside of the socializing is I have a lot of friends talk to me about their life and stuff. I tend to be the go-to guy for everyone's hard parts in their life. And I mean a ton of people. Like I've sometimes had weeks where every day after work is another
Yeah.
person calling me asking for help.
Okay.
So
Mm.
sometimes that happens, and that's a lot of what fuels my music. Is I've, a lot of people in my life have gone through some really trying things, some really traumatic things, and have not. I've had a lot of privilege in life, and I'm grateful for that. And so
Mm.
I've always just wanted to find a way to, at scale, help other people the way I already am helping other people.
Mm. I see. It's funny how you say that you don't really like socialize with other people. You used to not to do that, and then you're someone a guy right now who everyone's approach you to. Yeah, that's kind of funny. Yeah. So I like to jump
Yeah.
into this segment of mine. Oh, before anything, you wanted to say something, yeah?
Oh no, I'm good. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I like to jump into this segment whereby I will go like highly interruptive if you don't mind, which
Not at
is
all.
I like to jump into the timeline back when you were like super young, as far as you can remember, and then can you share with us like how are you like, and then what makes you the person that you are today? Yeah, all the way from the youngest all the way to the earliest part of your life until now. Yeah, walk me through the
Yeah.
experiences and all. Yeah.
So it's really interesting. Who I was as a kid is very different than who I am today. When I was a kid,
Mm-hmm.
I was talkative for the most. I remember my parents always telling me that I talked too much, which was funny. But I was also, when it came to my social life at school, I was very bullied. I was very quiet. I was shy. I didn't have any friends, and I was never the kid that was noticed. I was always just in the background. And when I say like I really did have no friends. And um, I had this moment in fifth grade where I started making friends because I had a new elementary school that I started going to. And
Mm.
my family actually moved to Cairo, Egypt. So I grew up in Cairo, Egypt for middle school and high school.
All right.
And then I had the same problem of didn't really have any friends, didn't really have anyone in my life. The consistent thing that I did have as a kid, and
Mm.
my parents say this is one of the earliest things they noticed about me is that I always wanted to help people. My dad likes to tell me that when I was a kid, they'd be at the airport with me, like when I was 5 or something, and I would walk up to strangers at the baggage claim and be like, "Can I help you with your bag?" And this little
Wow.
kid would try to lift these like bags that were 3 times his size, and people would let me do it. And I'd put the bag down, and I'd be like, "Here you go," and make the biggest smile. So I always wanted to help people. The only other thing about me that really stuck out was I
Yeah.
always wanted to sing. I always wanted to be in choir. I was
Mm.
always too afraid to do it though. I did it a couple times. I did it in 5th grade and 6th grade, but then I got scared and I stopped. I didn't do it again until I was in 12th grade because in 10th and 11th grade, I found a huge amount of confidence and self worth. And I just started saying, I don't really care what anyone else thinks about me. I'm going to start. I'm actually pretty great. I finally started making friends and having, my peers validate that I was a good guy and basically validate my existence in a way.
Mm.
And because of that, I have slowly got the confidence to say, you know what, I want to sing. I'm going to do this and join choir in 12th grade. But I always knew as a kid, like there was some calling to me that would make me want to sing, but I was just too afraid to do it.
Mm.
So,
I see. So I like to back up a little bit. You talk about the period whereby you like couldn't like connect with other people, yeah.
hmm
Like it's that you're very introverted kind of a guy. I would like you to from this period, like you looking back, like what do you think it was the reason why that it caused you to become like this? I know it's a super kind of a hard question because it requires a lot of like thoughtfulness. Because I myself I can share empathy with you that I myself am like super introverted like back then, and until now I actually am still quite introverted and all. So
hmm
yeah, I like you to be super thoughtful. What do you think it was all about? Yeah.
um, when it comes to how I went from this introverted nature to like being more myself and embracing what that was,
Mm.
it's really I've actually been pretty self-aware for a long time. I like to say I discovered self-awareness at 16.
Wow.
So I was highly aware of what was happening when it happened, and quite literally, all that happened was I got my first girlfriend.
Oh, okay. That's cool. That's cool.
But
Yeah.
I also had an awareness of it's not really the fact that I got a girl. What happened was a year before getting my first girlfriend was when I started looking around, and I didn't really have any close friends, but I saw these group of guys that I wanted to be better friends with. And I noticed that they didn't really hang out with anyone either. And we were just kind of all on our own. So I took the initiative and I said, hey, we should all hang out together. Let's all hang out on a Saturday. And I
Mm.
got us all to hang out. And, of like the 15 people I invited, 7 or 8 of them were all about it. And we started hanging out with each other every day. So now I have a friend group.
Wow.
Now that I have a friend group, oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So the 7 to 8 people is all until now. Like you guys are friends until now.
A lot of us are still friends. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Proceed
it
on to the
is.
story. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're good. Basically, once that happens, right? I Community is such a big factor in becoming who you are and
Right.
finding acceptance and embracing yourself. So for me, having this now for the first time in my life, this collection of people that I thought actually cared about me, were interested in who I was and what I was interested in, who weren't going to judge me for having different ideas or different ways of thinking. The key thing about my friend group actually was, unlike most friend groups where people click because they have the exact same things in common, our big thing was each one of us was incredibly different.
Right.
And it was because we were such a random assortment of people. Eventually this friend group grows and you get more people and more interactions happen. And for me, eventually that led to me having my first girlfriend because one of the friends in my friend group and I became attracted to each other. And that was, in a very, teenagers be what teenagers are. In a
Right.
shallow way, it was like, oh wow, it must be pretty great if someone's attracted to me.
Right.
But when you look at it in a more self-awareness way, it's like, oh, I gradually learned my from the society around me, from my peers, that I had good qualities, and I should embrace those good qualities
Right.
instead of being in fear of the judgment of everyone else.
Mm. So you actually touch upon like different topics that I like to jump into, which is environment. How do you think about the
Mm-hmm.
environment, like the people that you surround yourself with? That what do you think about it? Yeah.
I think environment's crucial. I tell a lot of my friends when they're going through hard times, the first thing they have to do is to get out of their environment. A lot of the times that's hard. If it's a family environment, it's not. It's you have to if it's a family environment, the first thing I'll tell them, unless it's incredibly dangerous, if it's an incredibly dangerous situation, I tell them, like, I'm just going to take care of them.
Mm.
But in other cases, I say you need to get financially independent, and you need to figure out the most reliable way you can do that, and then cut them off. Just say goodbye. And that's the family environment, right? Then
Right.
there's environments like, your friends. Sometimes you have like a negative friend, or you've got bad influences in your life. You need to cut those off too, and you need to move away from them. I think environment is incredibly crucial because unless you have a high level of self-awareness, you can't actively, disengage from your environment, stop yourself from learning bad habits. Habits is, really all we are.
Mm. Definitely.
So,
Yeah. So you
yeah, I
talk
think,
up. Yeah. Go. Keep
oh,
going. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I was going to give an example for myself.
Oh. Okay.
When I
Cool.
graduated
Yeah.
college, um, I had not enough of an understanding of music. There was a lot I was behind on.
Mm.
So I didn't do my music production night classes because I thought that after getting this degree, I was going to be a successful musician. I actually did it because I knew I was going to be in an environment surrounded by musicians, surrounded by people who wanted to become professional music producers and professional audio engineers.
Mm. Right.
And being around those people, I could start building the habits and the mindsets of a musician. So for me, going and doing the night classes and spending those 5 to 6 hours a day at school, the value in it wasn't the educational experience, it was the environmental experience of being around these people.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I think environment's crucial. I'd love to hear what you think.
Yeah, what I think is that I don't really want to give my hot take towards environment because I feel like I don't really handle environment really that well. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, yes.
interesting.
So
Interesting.
yeah, because the friends around me is because very recently here's a funny thing that I actually kind of do, because I told you that I'm introverted, yeah. So
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
like to be super thoughtful right now to think back what I actually did. I may actually think that I actually fucked up on purpose around my friends. I purposely how say I fucked up my own personality on purpose to
Mm,
unfriend this person because I felt that the environment is pretty toxic. I don't really want to say it's toxic, but yeah, it's I felt that
mm,
it's pretty toxic. So yeah, I fucked up my own personality on purpose to make sure that I don't go out with them, that kind of stuff. Every time they ask me out, I won't make it out with them. Yeah, and
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
proceeded on. I just felt that I choose my friends very specifically to the people who are genuine, who are nice, who I felt that are true. Because how I look at towards the world right now is that people are fronting. They probably like fake stuff. You know what I mean, like
I do.
people are
Yeah.
very great at faking things, like saying that, oh, if you don't do this, you're not cool. And yeah, there's so much like of cool things, like, oh, sneakers, you gotta get this off-whites, you gotta be
Yeah.
playing basketball, you gotta be doing this that, yeah. But what I think deep down inside, I feel that that's not who I am, and I just want to behave the authentic me. And I do get that I will get stuck, you know, at
Mm-hmm.
many points of my life when I was still hanging out with them. I felt that I was pretty much like trying to blend myself into the environment itself, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to be very thoughtful about the people who I hang out with, and I like to be very thoughtful about the environment and all that. Yeah, so that's my hot take towards that. You know, I don't really know what to do with that yet. You know, so
Mm-hmm.
that's my experience towards environment. Yeah.
I'm just glad you have an awareness of it. I mean, not everyone does, right?
So that's the topic that I really want to jump into. I'm glad that you talk about this self-awareness thing. So you talk about you being 16, you became like super self-aware. So like talk to me about the thought process like that brings in you to that state. Like you like talk to me about the thought process because I find it like super hard, you know, like you being
Yeah.
16, you already having the self-awareness. How can it
Yeah.
be? Yeah, talk to me about that. Yeah.
So it's really funny. The first way I'll start talking about self-awareness is when I was a freshman in high school, uh, before the friends and everything, I looked around me and I was like, I don't have friends. I don't understand how to get friends. I don't know how that works still. I just don't get it. Um, so I need to figure out how to talk to people. And this was back when people were using MSN Messenger to talk to each other,
Yeah.
and right before Facebook chat was happening.
Yeah, I remember the era. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would, I'd talk to people, I'd get close, and then if I got close enough to get their Messenger, tag, I might start having online conversations with them. And what I ended up getting really good at is I started getting really good at talking people through their problems and
Right.
becoming someone that people could trust, not because some people, they want to get to know you so they can have dirt on you, and other people want to get to know you because they want to feel important. They want to get to know you because if they know your secrets, then now they're important to you and they can validate themselves a little bit.
I totally
I
understand that.
genuinely,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a terrible thing. And I always, every time I was having a conversation, it was never about me. Remember, my root was I wanted to help others. So
Right.
even when I'm asking someone a question or I'm trying to get to know them, I ask myself, is this helpful for them, or am I just, bothering them, or am I bringing up a bad memory? Like, I had this awareness, but the key thing was I was learning how humans felt emotion because I was talking to these people and becoming someone that they were telling things to that they never told anyone else. Family drama or past history and,
Right.
struggles they were having with a partner, all these things at a young age. Then around, I think it was 10th or 11th grade, like it's not that much time, but high school feels long.
Right.
Um, Eventually, I started having these conversations in person with people, with my friend group that I mentioned. We get really good at having honest communication with each other and just having good life talks, like about life and about each other. One day, I was just talking to myself, like a little out loud, honestly.
Right.
And I started asking myself a question, and then I would answer it. And then I asked a question, and then I would answer it. And then I
Wow.
realized, like, oh, if I just ask myself the questions I would ask everyone else, like, what I would be able to have so many conversations with myself and grow. I don't need someone else to have those conversations. I can just do it with myself.
Wow. Okay.
So that's how I learned self-awareness. But the other thing it taught me was perspective, because when I started doing that, I was like, well, if I only talk to myself, I'm only going to see things one way. I want to start seeing things from other people's perspective. I want to start asking myself, all right, well, how would my friend Steven respond to this situation? How would my friend Hussein react to this conversation?
Right.
So in one kind of I don't know, week or something, I discovered perspective. I discovered self-awareness. And it was all because I just started asking myself questions I would ask my friends.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sorry that during this podcast I how to say I thought that you wanted to stop already, and then I asked the question, and then you kind of want to continue with the story and all that.
Oh, it's all
Yeah.
good. It's all
Oh,
good.
cool. So yeah, so I like to jump into perspective, like
Hmm.
a different kind one, because do you watch the part where Gary V talks about he pretending that his family got into, like, his closest family and
Yes.
got into
Yes.
the
Yes.
accident, that kind of a thing, to keep it into perspective. Oh, you got that? Yeah. So I
Yeah.
actually tried that, so I
Hmm.
did that, and wow, I just felt that the amount of, like, gratitude and the gratefulness that I have in myself is so powerful. It just speaks to my heart, and gets me into perspective whenever I feel like in a very down zone. And it helps me to not get sidetracked so much and get me back into perspective to do the things that are actually reaching my goals. So I like to understand from your side, do you do anything of any sort of things to keep yourself back into perspective, back into the things that you want to achieve in life? Yeah, share me about it. Yeah.
Yeah. When Gary released that video, I'd been wondering if he would ever like give more of a detailed conversation about that. And when he did, I was like, oh, that's like that thing I would do when I was in high school.
Wow.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of the stuff that Gary says are things that before I ever saw a Gary Vaynerchuk video, I already was doing. And
Wow.
this idea of imagining people you care about passing away, the strongest memory I have of it when I first did it was I had a poetry teacher, a creative writing teacher, when I was in high school, that she was such a big part of me finally becoming like just a poet, which is such a huge part of my identity. Um, One day I was just, lying down in bed and my head started going into a million different thoughts of perspective and thinking about different things that could happen in life. And one of the thoughts I had is like, what if my poetry teacher passed away? And I thought about how sad that would be. And I was like, what if I had to like talk at her eulogy? What would I do? How would I feel? And then I just ended up writing this poem about how I felt. And
Wow.
that was one of my first experiences with that.
Mm.
I started doing that. I had done that a couple times before. I do it when I think about my family, my father, my mom. Um, I've done it with relatives. I think a lot about.
Mm.
I have a lot of family in Lebanon and Syria, and they don't live as good of a life as I live, right?
Right.
So they still live their own great lives, I'm sure, but they have to deal with a very different kind of country than I do, living in America.
Right.
So very young, I started doing that as well. Um,
That's cool. Mm.
yeah, what I will say is what I started doing more so the older I got was more today specifically is I started meditating.
Mm.
And for me, that just means taking the time. I try to do every hour of lunch at work. I try to do outside. I'll eat and then I'll just sit, meditate for 10, 20 minutes, think, maybe journal. Journaling's a big for me. And
Mm.
I've developed this motto in high school called appreciate everything. And that's what I learned. Like truly like appreciate your existence. How lucky you are to be alive. How lucky you are to have everything you have. And a lot
Mm.
of it was born out of, this thought of like, what if someone you loved passed away? And
Mm.
a lot of it was also from all the perspective I had on my privilege, because I had all these people telling me about their hardships in life that I didn't have, nowhere near as bad as they had. And then
Mm.
I also had very tangible things like seeing my family in Lebanon, Syria. I've visited them several times. Like I've seen the life they live versus the life I live. I grew up in Egypt. Egypt has a lot of poverty. I did a lot of community service there. So I
Right.
saw directly like what it meant to be living in a third world country effectively, and that kind of lifestyle instead of living as a foreigner in that country.
Right.
So it's, yeah. Um, I think it's an amazing thing to do. It's a hard thing to do,
Mm,
but I think it's a really big step in awareness of life and awareness of how to appreciate life. And it makes it easier to forgive people and to let things go because you realize you don't have a lot of time with them.
right. Time is everything, yeah. Like there's so little time. Like uh, we should appreciate the time, yeah, that we have every single moment and all, yeah.
Yeah. And that's not to say that it's easy, because it's not always easy.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So I like to understand like you having like so much of a self awareness like since like super young. Like I like to know like what do you think is the thing that actually make you the person that you are, that becoming like super self aware of the things that you kind of like do. What do you think was the source? Where did it came from? Like,
Hmm. The source of the self awareness specifically?
yeah, like because it feels like it's not like a pretty much like a normal thing to for people to have like at such a young age, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
you talk about self-awareness, you talk about you appreciating stuff, like it feels like I don't know what to call that. I would say it's humility, you know, that you have so much humility in yourself. Like what do you think is the thing that actually make you the person that you are like doing then? Like is it because like you have like great influence from your relatives or what so not, that you see them being so much of a human, so much humility in them that influence you to kind of do so, or you watch some stuff that make you a person that you are? Yeah, like
Yeah,
yeah.
I get it. I get your question now.
Mm,
Um, that's really hard for me to answer, and I wonder. I'm actually kind of in the process of trying to answer it.
mm,
Um, I want to believe that because I've had such a long history of it, I'm trying to write in this journaling I'm doing. I'm trying to
mm,
journal now my like daily life lessons. Like, what do I learn about myself and my thought process on discovering these things, so that the next time I learn something like self awareness, I have a tangible way to communicate with people what the process of learning it was.
mm.
With and I'm trying to go back and be like, okay, how do I explain empathy? How do I explain self awareness to people? How did I figure it out?
Yeah.
And I think this is where I got genetically lucky. And Gary Vaynerchuk says it, like, I was born with an underlying desire to help others. And it was
Mm,
because I was born with so much empathy for my fellow human, which is
mm,
funny because even though I was an incredibly empathetic person, I was also an incredibly bullied person. I was an incredibly lonely child. My family wasn't a super close family by any means. Like, I really didn't have a lot of conversations with my dad until
mm.
I was like in high school, after I'd learned to just do this stuff already.
Yeah.
And like, funny enough, it turns out my dad's a very similar person from me, but I figured it out on my own, completely own way. Um,
Right.
so what I have to say is it's that I always lean on, it was the fact that I wanted to help others, that I was able to find self-awareness, because you can't you can't help others without having an awareness about how humans work. So
Right.
I was obsessively trying to figure out how humans work, and I was doing a lot of experimenting. A lot of the first conversations I had with people where I was trying to help them, I did not do a good job. I heard like a lot of people I'm not friends with anymore because, you know, the friendship was just not working for them. It was, too much of a hard conversation always. We were always talking about things that they were going through.
Mm,
And I had to learn how to step back from that and have other kinds of conversations, or how to talk about my own problems and not always talk about theirs. Um, it's yeah. But the driving element to it was this obsessive desire to understand humans. And before I started talking to people to do that, I was watching TV.
Right.
Literally. I was watching Friends, I was watching rom-coms, I was watching whatever I could watch. And one day when I was watching TV in like middle school, I realized every single character in a fictional TV show was written by a human.
Mm.
Which means every fictional character is effectively a real person. Like, they have real emotions, they have real traits that have been given to them from another human, right?
Mm.
And because of that, if you're actually paying attention to the movie, you can learn a lot about human behavior.
Mm. Definitely.
So, yeah, that was like a weird meta self-awareness where it's like I can kind of cheat. I don't have to experience everything. If I watch the right things and I pay the right attention, I can learn a lot about how to deal with humans.
Yeah, that's where you kind of like that's where I like about books, yeah, because books tells you about
Yeah.
the experiences and you have the empathy and it's the whole fun cycle and then you don't really need to experience that and then you kind of learn it already. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I first did that, and like I said, it's that driving desire to understand humans, because once you can understand how humans in general work, eventually you can have the humility to say, I'm not special. I'm a human too. I'm just as susceptible to all the things that I'm seeing other humans be susceptible to.
Right.
So you start to say, like, whenever you have a thought, you question the thought. You say, like, is that really what I want to do? Do I really want that second donut? Like, that's a very simple one. But then it's also a matter of like, oh, do I really want to hang out with that friend? Or am I just doing that because I'm lonely? And the reason I'm lonely is actually because when I'm alone with myself, I don't like myself, right?
Right.
You start asking questions. Before you do something, you take the time to say, wait, is that what I really need to be doing right now?
Mm. Right. I like to jump into
And
like the thing that you talk about, like asking questions. Or you were saying, yeah.
yeah, I just realized
Mm.
really helpful for my explaining of things. Thank you. um,
Yeah.
what I realized was the way I figured out, like, when do you second guess yourself is, when you're watching a movie and you're
Mm-hmm.
about to watch the main character do the stupid thing for like the third time, you're like, why are you still doing that? That's not good for you. Hanging out with that person might put you in an accidental situation. And all of a sudden, the climax of the movie happens and they got into a car accident, right?
Mm.
I realized I have those moments in my own life. Someone else could be watching me as a movie and be like, why are you doing that again? That's bad for you. Like, stop hanging out with these people. Stop doing these same habits. Like, it makes you so sad.
Right.
So if you really want to learn how to start having that self-awareness, another way to do it is really start
Mm.
paying attention to when you're watching a movie or reading a book and you say, when you get really annoyed with a character and you're like, oh, they're doing it again, they're going to complain about it again, and start asking yourself, what am I doing that I always end up complaining about later?
Mm. Right. Definitely.
So
Yeah, that's a great example to actually put you on to actually question yourself to have the higher level of self-awareness. Yeah.
yeah, but you were saying, go ahead.
Yeah, so you talk about like questioning yourself. So how important, like what do you think is the power like of like asking yourself the questions? Because to me it feels like it's like you making use of your accumulated experiences in your heart to you questioning and then you using those experiences to kind of match an answer to get an answer for yourself. So what do you think is the power of like actually asking your questions towards yourself? Yeah.
If by power you mean the benefit of it, like what if I
Yeah. Yeah. What do
gain
you
from
think?
those experiences? Yeah,
Yeah.
what I've found is a lot of the times when it comes to at least things regarding other humans, I have found, I want to say, a higher level awareness of a lot of situations faster than a lot of people.
Mm.
Um, and one of the bigger benefits is, um, like I said, I'm the person that a lot of my friends go to. And it's
Mm.
because a lot of the things that they've learned that they're dealing with are things that I've already figured out. And
Mm.
so I've been able to help a lot of people through these one-on-ones. I mean, I've had I've had days where I've like ran into someone randomly on the street that I haven't seen in a while, and I'm like, "Hey, how's it going?" And they'll just be like, "Terrible. Here's everything that's going on." So we sit for 4 hours. We talk about their life, catch up. I get a quick idea of what's going on. I'm like, "Okay, here's what I think you should do." And I lay things out in front of them. The only reason I can do that is because I have so much empathy about how hard it is what they're going through, and it's because I've already asked myself similar questions
Mm.
about how do you handle these kinds of situations. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I'm trying to think. There's a lot of benefits to it, but they're all very
Right.
subtle for the most part.
Right.
The main benefit I feel like I get in general is I'm able to understand people better and empathize better. So even today, when I'm at the office, for example,
Right.
and I'm talking with my coworkers, it's very quick for me to figure out like, oh, they're having a good day or they're having a bad day, and know how to respond in those situations to let them know that I'm here to help. I mean, I've had like some days your coworker's just really grumpy, right?
Right.
And a lot of people like your coworker's really grumpy. You're just like, okay, they're being a jerk today. I'm not going to talk to them.
Right.
When someone's being grumpy, the first thing I do is like, you know, apologize if I interrupted them or anything, and try to ask like, how's everything going? You know, did you have a good weekend? Did you have a good week? And sometimes they'll tell me like, oh, this terrible thing happened. My car's in the shop, or my daughter is sick, or my father is currently going through a heart surgery. Like, I've
Right.
had all these things happen at work. And it's because I took the time to second guess myself. My gut instinct is to like, oh, they're being a jerk. And I said, no, wait. What else could it be? Let's let's ask a question. So I asked them a question. And that ends up building such stronger relationships between people and so much more trust, and it makes you the person that people want to talk to, and it makes you someone that people want to work with because they know when they work with you, you're actually going to care about them.
Right.
So
Mm.
yeah, it's been a huge benefit.
Yeah. It's super interesting that you actually talk about you running into coworkers and then you having the second gut feeling that this person is having a bad day, because I think that I experience that quite often, like everyone is just like holding their truths like you know inside, and don't really want to share it, or they are having a difficulty to actually find a platform for them to share it. So I like you to look it at a macro picture, like what do you think uh what are you thinking about? Do you have any like thoughts about this whole thing? Because like everyone, it feels like a lot of people are keeping things to themselves. And what do you think that people should do, or what is your thoughts towards this whole thing about like
Yeah.
people still keeping this all these things? It feels like people are so insecure about. Yeah.
Yeah, well, for starters, I'm going to say the fact that you're asking me this and the questions you've been asking, I just love you, man. I think
Yeah.
you've got a really good head on your shoulder. You're going about these conversations right because you're getting to the right problems.
Mm. Thank you
Um,
so much.
one,
Yeah.
of course, yeah, you deserve that. You're earning it.
Yeah.
I started talking to myself in, I want to say college, like after I got out of high school, and I went to a very special high school. I was in a foreign country, and I was in a private American international high school. I knew I had a high quality education. So I told myself, when you go to college,
Mm.
you're going to meet a ton of people from different backgrounds.
Right.
And you need to get to know those backgrounds. I met people from first-generation college students. I met people that were valedictorians of their best school in the state. I met people that were valedictorians of the worst schools of the state. I met people from small rural towns. I met people from other countries, and then just from other cities in the state.
Right.
And what I noticed was it didn't really matter who I talked to. None of them had deep conversations. To this day, I meet people that are telling me that this is the first time they've ever had a deep conversation in their entire life, and it was with me. And I'm like, you're 24. You're 20. You're 31. Like I met a 29-year-old or 30-year-old. She was like late 20s, early 30s, lawyer from the UK.
Right.
It was a random experience, and she met me, and we drove out to like wine country together just for fun.
Right.
We were just, why not go on a random trip with a stranger? It sounds like a great time.
Right.
She told me on that trip, we started talking and we had these deep conversations about life and stuff. And she says she's never had a deep conversation like that in her entire life, and that I'm the wisest 24-year-old she's ever met.
Wow.
And I'm like, I hate that. I hate that you, this beautiful, smart lawyer who's done so much traveling, has met so many people, smart people. She went to law school.
Right.
She has not had a deep conversation like this in her life. And it's because we have these cultures where people don't feel comfortable talking about it. And where do people learn those habits? We learn them from family. So then you got to think the root up. What is the main source of knowledge in family? It's the parents. Where did the parents learn it from? Well, they learned it from their parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
But those parents, minus being parents, what else are they doing? Working 9 to 5 jobs.
Right.
So what I waited till was I told myself, I got to go to get a job. I have to go figure out what's happening in these corporate environments and these job environments. What is getting taught to people? My first year in a job was terrible. It was incredibly passive aggressive. Everyone was complaining between each other, but no one would ever complain to management. Management wasn't truly listening to their employees and making decisions that employees then had to just deal with. How often do parents make decisions that kids just have to then deal with?
Definitely, yeah.
So what I realized was, and I'm in America, so I'm getting a different culture, but corporate America is driving how we have deep conversations, because if these companies that our parents are spending all day in are not teaching people how to have open, honest conversations, then when they come home to their kids, what are they going to do?
Right.
And from always, the second I started hearing people tell me like, oh, I've never had such a deep conversation before, I started getting more aggressive about having those conversations with people faster. And I got better at it, to the point where like I was having, like I said, a deep conversation with someone in 15 minutes, 30 minutes. It did not take long for someone to trust me, because I mean, I didn't waste time. And it's not because, like I said, I'm not trying to get someone's dirt or secrets. It's because the thing that I realized was in the way was only myself. Everybody wants to talk. Everybody wishes they had someone they could talk to, but nobody's asking, so everybody thinks no one cares.
Right.
So if we want a culture where people are talking to each other, where they are helping each other out, if we want to change our environments, we have to just start asking people questions. And the more people start asking each other questions, we start creating these safer environments where people can talk about these things.
Right.
We just need more people to be the leaders in that and to start asking the questions.
That would be a beautiful place, yeah, if we have that.
Yeah. That's kind of like my dream. Entrepreneurs and just people in general, like they have their long-term vision. Vaynerchuk's long-term vision, right? He wants
Yeah.
everyone in the world to know him. You know, he
Yeah.
wants to have his legacy.
Yeah.
Um,
Kindness, empathy, all that. Yeah.
yeah, and then recently I was listening to Simon Sinek,
Oh, I know that guy.
and
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of people do, right? He's great.
Yeah.
Simon was saying, I think it was on Gary's podcast. He was saying how he wants to live in a world where people go to work and feel safe and welcome and want to be. That's his vision, right?
Mm.
My vision is I want to live in a world where people aren't afraid to ask someone else for help, to be honest with each other, where they can trust humans first and, you know, learn to lose trust when someone causes fault, because that's how I live my life. Until someone has a reason for me not to trust them, I trust them.
Mm. Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So, like, one question that I like to sneak in is that, um, I initially it's just a question. Then as we converse together, we having this conversation together, I actually found the answer, and then I got another question for you, which is yeah. So I initially I wanted to ask is that how where like people talk about these key terms that just do it, go for it, just do it, the Nike slogan, just do it, that kind of a stuff. And the
Yeah.
thing behind it is that you got to have like courage to actually do it. So I think that the things that I actually figure out through this conversation is that the behind the roots towards the problem that people are having is like judgment of opinions coming from other people that causes them to not have the courage to do the thing that they really want to do it, because
Mhm.
it's so cliche for people to say just do it, why are you afraid of that kind of a stuff, but they did not like consider the deep roots that is inside, which is the probably the judgment of opinions of other people from the world that makes them not to actually do the things that they want to do. So I like to have your hot take, like what do you think about this whole thing about like judgment from other people that stops you from doing the things that you want to do? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, answering this is almost like a quick synopsis of everything I've said already. And I
Mm.
like that. Because it's a good chance for me to summarize kind of everything that I think has taught me a lot and added value to my. So the first way I'll answer is by, like I said, when I was a kid, I was so afraid. I was incredibly afraid of everyone's judgment.
Mm.
I didn't do anything. I didn't sing. I didn't talk to people. I didn't think I was worth anyone's time. And man, my throat's dry. Sorry.
No worries. Yeah.
um, I went from that to fixing my environment. Right. I got the right friends, hung out with the right people, learned to be in a safe environment, an environment that was healthy for me. And then from there, changing my environment, learning to not care about other people's judgment because I had found the right people, the right environment to validate my own judgment. So what I did was I started putting more weight in my positive sources of opinion to validate my own opinions and my own self-worth, which gave me the power to ignore all those negative opinions around me. Then I went all in on my own thoughts. And from there is where I learned to embrace who I truly was and to grow as that person and experiment with that person, have fun with that person, and to
Mm.
stop caring about what other people think.
Mm.
But it's so important to acknowledge environment.
Right.
I think everyone that's being told, just do it, just do it, just do it,
Mm.
it's unfair. There's not enough empathy for those people that have to do it. Because
Right.
you can say just do it, but you're not the one that has to go do it.
Right.
And the first thing you have to do is get into a positive environment. Surround yourself with people that are going to help you do it. So that when it gets hard and when you start to be mean to yourself and neglect yourself and do unhealthy things, the people you go to aren't your parents that disagree with you and think you should do something else. They'll tell you everything's going to be fine. You're still going to college and studying that other thing. right?
Right. Right.
Or it'll be your friends that were like, oh, it'll be fine, it's not like that was going anywhere anyways. Instead, you're going to go to your other ambitious friends or whoever you believes in you, and they're going to say, you're strong, you're capable, this is what's right for you. You just got to be patient and work harder.
Right.
And it all starts with environment, because humans, there's not a lot of humans that can do it alone. And I have a lot of admirations for the ones who can, because I can't. I know I need a support group. I know my environment is a huge part of my life. I acknowledge that.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yes.
Yeah. And so that's why I like to emphasize this process. First, acknowledge the environment you're in. Acknowledge, is that who you want to be? If you want to be a famous musician, are you hanging out with musicians? If you want to be a great engineer, are you hanging out with engineers? If you want to be a salesman, are you doing sales? And are you asking those people for advice? If not, then you got to get in those environments. It doesn't mean you have to necessarily say goodbye to those other environments, but you have to start asking yourself, how much weight can you give them? When I talk to people now,
right.
I tell myself, like, not everyone understands not everyone's a musician.
Right.
So a lot of people are scared of that career path. They're like, oh, there's no money in it. And so I don't go to my coworkers at my software development job and I talk about my music career. In fact, I don't try my best not to talk about music, because a lot of them are going to be like, where's that going to go? They'll question it and they'll say, oh, it's good to have a hobby, but like you should never do something serious with that.
Right.
And so instead, I put a lot less weight in their opinion, and I put more opinion on my teachers and my mentors and my music program, because they are all successful already, and I can trust their opinions on the topic more. But if you're coming from a place of insecurity, where you're scared of it, where you're only surrounded in all those other people that don't get it, but they're trying to tell you what to do with your life,
right,
you got to realize all those people are just telling you what everyone else told them. So
yeah,
if you're going to listen,
that's a great way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're going to listen to someone that did the thing you wanted to do. Don't listen to someone else.
Right. Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. 100%. So before I end off this podcast, I usually like to ask my guests one last hot take that is in their mind that they really want to talk about. It's like a very selfish moment for yourself to actually talk about. Yeah, that's in your mind. Yeah.
Gotcha. Let me try to think of something we haven't talked.
Yeah.
Get out of the scope of this current mindset and put myself in a totally different.
Yeah, sure.
So nowadays there is two things that I try to think about the most, and it's self-worth and forgiveness. And it's acknowledging my own self-worth and the worth of other humans. And for me, what that means is realizing that I'm not special. I'm an ant on this big thing called planet Earth, and I'm as equal as the person next to me. And for me, that's incredibly validating, because a lot of the times it's hard for me to feel like I have the audacity to do anything, or to do, I get anxious and I start thinking that who am I? I'm not more as important as someone else. But when I put myself in that perspective, my worth is equal to everyone else's on this planet. My worth is equal to Gary Vaynerchuk. It's equal to every president on the planet. We're all just humans. We all have innate worth. Which means we all have the right to do what we want to do for ourselves, and we don't have to listen to each other, but we do have to respect each other to a bare minimum. We have to respect each other's worth, their existence in this life. And that takes me to forgiveness, which is point 2.
Right.
You have to learn to forgive yourself. Forgive yourselves for making mistakes, for not figuring it out sooner, for not being perfect. And you also need to forgive others for not figuring it out. Forgive your parents. Forgive the friend that stabbed you in the back. Forgive people that just didn't understand and gave you bad advice. Everyone's just doing their best, and so are you. So you should be forgiving with yourself, forgiving with, and just move on to whatever's next. That's how we're going to find more kindness for each other, more empathy.
Right.
And that's my hot take for you.
Right. That's awesome. That's super awesome, I think. Yeah. So
Yeah.
before we move on to end off, yeah. Is where can we find you on the social media or anything that you would like us to any shout outs or anything? Yeah.
Ooh, okay, so that's interesting. I'm actually
Mm.
considering switching my social media tags sometime soon. But for now,
Yeah.
where you can still find me is at When Nights on Instagram. That's WhenKi or KNIGHT. So it's When Nights, like medieval nights. Very confusing. And then I also have a YouTube that you can get to. The YouTube is, I think, right now it's Prof Punk, which is the new thing I'm switching to. I'm realizing the easiest way to get to both of those is going to possibly just be my website, which is my first name, Ali, Ali, and then my last name, DARWICHE.com. So you can also get me there. Hopefully that gives people enough contact with me, but I'm probably going to own that domain name and you can always find me there.
All right, awesome. So grateful to have you here, Ali, and thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys have a great listen. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Thank you all so much.